Black Power, man. It's the boy Swab out snapping off entertainment AOI. Argument League, whole bunch of Black Power shit. Just doing a live right now. Shout out to the people, whoever out there. I see ones in attendance now. Hit that like button for me. So Netanyahu came to America and made a speech. And I know black people are, caught up in the pop culture beefs and stuff like that. But, I wanted to bring some attention to this. So let me see if I could do this right. And I think it's important because I want, if you don't know who Benjamin Netanyahu is, it's the president or prime minister of Israel. If you don't know the past of Israel, I think it's an interesting tidbit of information. Funded in like 1956 by America after Germany and Hitler and his war machine, so-called, killed millions of them. Americans, for some reason, used its resources to place them in the Middle East. Shout out to my sister Lima, Mule University. Good to see you, sis. Peace to you. So, let me see if I can look that up right quick. Because, for one, this is the most ignorant display of political leadership I've ever seen. For America still, and let me look that up too. The things that were said during this speech were so appalling. If I could be appalled by these things. Alright, so let me share this first. Please. This is from Wikipedia, right? It says the United States of America was the first country to recognize the nascent state of Israel. Nascent. Just coming into existence and beginning to display signs of future potential. Okay. So United States was the first to recognize Israel when they were just coming into the game and was showing signs of potential. Since the 1960s, the American-Israeli relationship has grown into a mutually beneficial alliance in economic, strategic, and military aspects. I wonder what the fuck that means. Since the 1960s, the American-Israeli relationship has grown into a mutually, that's where I get confused, mutually beneficial alliance in economic, strategic, and military aspects. So, what does Israel do for us? What does Israel do for America? Why is this source, which is coming from U.S. relationships with Israel, United States Department of State, so this has come from the Department of State, which is telling you that Israel and America has a beneficial alliance. How do America and Americans benefit from having an alliance with Israel? The United States has provided strong support for Israel. It has played a key role in the promotion of good relations between Israel and its neighboring Arab states, notably Jordan, Lebanon, Egypt, while holding off hostility from countries such as Syria and Iran. In turn, Israel, here we go. Let's see. Israel provides a strategic American foothold in the region as well as intelligence and advanced technological partnerships in both the civilian and military worlds. What the fuck does that mean? Let's break it down. Israel provides, now let's go back to this. The United States has provided strong support for Israel. An example, what? Money, weapons, what? Military, this, hey, our reputation is your reputation. If they fuck with you, they gotta fuck with us. What does that mean? Right? It has played a key role in promotion of good relationships between Israel and its neighboring Arab states, notably Jordan, Lebanon, and Egypt, while holding off hostilities. It's holding off hostilities from countries such as Syria and Iran. In turn, Israel provides a strategic American foothold in the region as well as in intelligence. So what type of strategic American foothold? What are you footholding? If you are promoting good relationships between Israel and Jordan, Lebanon, and Egypt, you don't need a foothold with Jordan, Lebanon, and Egypt, right? And if you're holding off hostility from countries such as Syria and Iran, you don't need a foothold for Syria and Iran because you're not there. Iran and Syria is not a hostility to America because America is in America. So what does provides a strategic American foothold mean? In the region as well as intelligence, what intelligence can we get from Israel? We're funding you. Everything we're doing over there in Israel, we could have did here. Whatever schools, whatever colleges, shout out to Terry Smoot, T. Will, shout out to y'all. Whatever Israel has comes from the fact that America funded it. Israel came out of a bunch of beat up motherfuckers out of the Germanic war against the Jews. Hitler and them. They didn't come to the table with a bag of money. They didn't come to the table with a bunch of intelligence. They didn't come to the table as a bunch of scientists and fucking doctors. No. They came as a bunch of hungry, wilted, abused motherfuckers. So how are they providing us a strategic American foothold when we're protecting their borders and we're establishing their relationships with their neighboring nations? What intelligence are you giving us if our money, our trillions of dollars, is allowing you and helping you and providing this resources for you to build your schools, universities, institutes, research centers, labs, whatever? Anything y'all doing over there, we could have did over here. An advanced technological partnership in both civilian and military worlds. Our military saved y'all. Our military saved y'all civilians. Y'all didn't have a military. So now, how do you have a military? During the Cold War, Israel was a vital counterweight to Soviet influence in the region from fans with benefits, while the U.S.-Israeli alliance is good for America. Israel was a vital counterweight to Soviet influence in the region. Relations with Israel are important in the fact that the U.S. government's overall foreign policy in the Middle East, and the U.S. Congress has placed considerable importance on the maintenance of a supportive relationship. Now, I'm not like a super duper genius when it comes to the U.S. relationships with the Middle East, but I've seen the U.S. government shaking hands with the leaders of the Middle East. I've seen the leaders of the Middle East come here to America, to the UN, and make speeches. Ahmadinejad, Netanyahu, what's the other partner name? Muammar Gaddafi. So I've seen plenty of pictures of America helped set up what's his name? The Shah. So how are you an important factor in our overall foreign policy in the Middle East? When we're the reason why you fucking exist. And the U.S. Congress has placed considerable importance down here on the maintenance of a supportive relationships. Cool. Israel is the largest cumulative recipient of U.S. foreign aid. United States foreign aid, also known as U.S. foreign assistance, consists of a variety of tangible and intangible forms of assistance the United States give to other countries. Foreign aid is used to support American national security and commercial interests and can also be, distributed for humanitarian reasons. So the United States foreign aid that's going to Israel, remember, a variety of tangible and intangible things that we could be using. Forms of assistance the United States give to other countries. Up to February 2022, the U.S. has provided Israel with 150 U.S. billion dollars, non-inflation adjusted in assistance. And we're still over here doing what? Who are we talking to about what? And since 1957, 70 years, within 70 years, the U.S. has provided Israel with $150 billion. That's just the tangible. That's just the tangible. This is ridiculous. And then we're going to get into the speech. Right now, I'm just breaking this down just to draw a little attention to the channel, give people a chance to actually come in here and see that I'm talking about something. Within 70 years, 150 billion US dollars has went overseas to Israel. The United States' first free trade agreement was with Israel in 1985. The free trade agreement with Israel creates the most American jobs per export dollar of all of the United States free trade agreements. That's crazy. In 1999, the U.S. government signed a commitment to provide Israel with at least $2.7 billion in military aid annually for 10 years. They ain't made no agreement with us. And in 2009, it was raised to $3 billion. $2.7 billion wasn't enough. We need another $300,000. And in 2019, raised to a minimum of $3.8 billion. Started at 2.7, ended up a 1.1 billion more. In 1999 to 2019, in 20 years, check that out. 1999, 09, 19. So every 10 years they come back and get a little bit more money, but they providing us with something. Since 1972, the U.S. has also extended loan guarantees to Israel to assist with housing shortages, absorption of new Jewish immigrants, and economic recovery. Since 1972. What was the United States relationship with black people in 1972? How are you making agreements of loan guarantees to Israel to assist with housing shortages when we had housing shortages, still have housing shortages are only getting worse, and absorption of new Jewish immigrants and economic recovery? What happened to our economic recovery? Moreover, Israel is the United States' 23rd largest trading partner, while the United States is Israel's largest trading partner. So how do you benefit us? You're our 23rd largest, and we made you. We're your largest. Two-way trade totaled nearly $50 billion in 2023. 300 American, mostly technology-oriented companies have set up R&D centers in Israel, while 650 Israeli technology companies operate in the United States. What are we doing? So that's the relationship of America with Israel, right? Now, let me see. Let me see if I can find an honest source that could break down the actual history of Israel. Okay, that's a little bit off. Let me check. Let me copy that. I appreciate everybody. If you got a channel, share the link. Okay. So now, let's see. Let's show this right here. Shout out to Alonzo. Shout out to Leonard D. Huda. Peace, family. Let's show this.
In 1917, Britain's Foreign Secretary on November 2nd, 1917, Britain's Foreign Secretary Arthur Balfour wrote a letter that would set off a conflict still being fought more than 100 years later.
His Majesty's government view with favour the establishment in Palestine of a national home for the Jewish people, and will use their best endeavours to facilitate the achievement of this object.
When Balfour wrote of his government's intent to create a Jewish homeland in Palestine, 90% of the people living there were not Jewish. Just 31 years later, most of them were gone. Palestine, 90% of the people living there were not Jewish. Just 31 years later, most of them were gone.
Endeavours to facilitate the achievement of this object.
When Balfour wrote of his government's intent to create a Jewish homeland in Palestine, 90% of the people living there were not Jewish. Just 31 years later, most of them were gone.
So here we are, oh, poor lowly Israel. 98% of the people living in the Palestinian region was not Jewish. 20 years later, most of them are gone. He said, how do you think people was killed this way? He said, my gun had 250 bullets. And laugh. All right.
This is the story of the British promise that led to the destruction of Palestine and the creation of the State of Israel. Let's start with the obvious question. Why were the British making promises about other people's countries? Short answer, empire is one hell of a drug. This was World War I, and the British were making lots of promises. In addition to promising a Jewish homeland in Palestine, they promised Arab leaders independence if they rose up against Britain's enemy, the Ottoman Empire. The Arabs did. Hollywood even made a movie about it.
Arabia's for the Arabs now. That's what I've told them anyway. That's what they think. That's why they're fighting.
Oh, surely.
A month after Balfour's letter, British troops took Palestine, ending 400 years of Ottoman rule. The people who lived there were Arabs, mostly Muslims, but there were Christian and Jewish minorities too. There was also a tiny number of European Jews who in the late 1800s had started building small colonies there. At a time when many Jews were suffering horrific persecution in Europe, they felt Palestine could be an escape. The idea of building up a Jewish presence in Palestine became known as Zionism, but it stayed a fringe movement among European Jews. Many of them felt They shouldn't have to leave their countries to avoid persecution. But Zionism as a political movement took a big step forward with an Austrian man called Theodor Herzl. And this guy is a very important name in this story. In 1896, he published Der Judenstaat, or in English, The Jewish State. In it, he said the only way for Jews to avoid Europe's anti-Semitism was not just to leave, but to have their own country. And Herzl didn't just write. The next year, he organized a conference in Basel, Switzerland, the first Zionist Congress. The attendees agreed on a program.
Now look at this. Who are you? Are you coming with a book? The Jewish State? Everybody has the same game. They've done it in your face, black people, but we still letting them think we can't do it. We still letting them tell us we can't do it. This man said the Jewish state, and all these Jewish people came together. The only way we can make it is if we separate and have our own nation. But America never thought to apply that to the blacks here. You rather complain about the crime. You rather complain about the savagery. Instead of letting us separate, supporting us with all of these $350 billion, $150 billion, $3.7 billion a year. Instead of supporting us, Americans, you'd rather support foreigners. Okay.
Which sought, among other things, to establish a Jewish homeland in Palestine and promote Jewish settlement in Palestine. From here on out, the Zionist movement became very active, setting up funds to promote Jewish immigration to Palestine, companies to buy land there, and recruiting representatives to advocate for their cause with different governments. A few days after the conference, Herzl wrote this in his diary.
At Basel, I founded the Jewish state. In 5 years, perhaps, and certainly in 50 years, everyone will perceive it.
He was only off by 1 year. Okay, so that is a lot of history, but it's important because the Zionist movement is a critical part of the story going forward, especially after it found a friend in the British government, where a lot of high-ranking officials supported Zionism, sometimes for unexpected reasons. Prime Minister Lloyd George, for example, was a Christian zealot who believed gathering the Jewish people in Palestine would bring Jesus Christ back to earth.
Now listen, when you want an example of an idiot in power, here you go. And that's one thing that's, for one, is always easy to grab on. If you're following this Christianity stuff, you are part of the problem. This man said, yeah, we got to establish the Jews, because the Bible tells this story about them being returned to their land. I want Jesus to come back. And this still hasn't proved we were wrong. And this ain't even us. This is the prime minister in Europe, in England. Cool, do your thing. Why the fuck are we giving up $3.7 billion? Why have we given up $150 billion? He believed it was going to bring Jesus Christ back, so he helped establish Israel. Come on.
Others, like Balfour, believed that getting the Jewish people out of Europe and into their own country would be a good thing. Herzl was pretty visionary when he wrote that the anti-Semitic
He said he felt that getting the Jewish people out of Europe and into their own country was a good thing. We don't even have them discussions. You will never hear black people getting their own nation being discussed on any political, not your mayor, your senator with their local voting ass, not your president, the vice president, head of Congress. Nobody. And you know that problem y'all created hundreds of years ago? Because even now, the Jewish people who went through this shit ain't even the Jewish people that you helped. So you're gonna wait until you have a all white descendant of black people and say, man, let's help the black people now that they blonde hair and blue eyed. Let's help. Because you waited until the Jews was pale skinned. But based on this lie that you want to push, that is, but remember, they established that country over 60 years ago, 70 now, I believe. I believe it was 1957. Okay.
Nations will become our allies. Meanwhile, the Zionists assured Britain that their future country would be a reliable ally. So that's the backstory of how European anti-Semitism, Zionism, and British imperialism all led to the Balfour Declaration, this British promise to build a homeland for Jews in Palestine. Now we're going to look at how Britain did that. World War I had been a conflict between rival empires, and the winners set up the League of Nations to distribute the losing side's territories between them. They called it the Mandate System, putting territories once controlled by the Ottoman and German empires under the, quote, tutelage of advanced nations until they became independent. Britain was given the mandate over Palestine, but the Palestinian people were never asked what they wanted or what independence would look like to them. Listen to what Balfour wrote to one of his colleagues.
For in Palestine, we do not propose even to go through the form of consulting the wishes of the present inhabitants of the country.
Instead, it was the Zionists who were consulted about what their vision for Palestine was, and so the mandate ended up incorporating not just the Balfour Declaration, but several clauses requiring Britain to ensure the establishment of a Jewish home in Palestine. British rule was very accommodating to the Zionist project. The Jewish community in Palestine grew with big waves of immigration. They had their own schools and factories and even their own militia, the Haganah, and they were led by the Polish-born David Ben-Gurion, the leader of their representative body, the Jewish Agency. To the Palestinians, it was clear that Britain wasn't delivering them independence. It was delivering their country to other people. In 1936, they went on strike. British forces tried to break the strike with arrests, torture, mass punishment, and executions. Leaders were exiled, weapons confiscated, and houses blown up. Palestinian fighters attacked British and Jewish targets, while British and Haganah forces would carry out joint raids on Palestinian villages. Something had to change. The British government...
And I want you to retain this information that's coming out, right? Because we're going into the speech of Netanyahu. Netanyahu, the Prime Minister of Israel, came to America, made a speech. So retain this information. Retain how they said, well, how was 98% of Palestine not Jewish, and now most of those people are gone? Oh, my gun had 250 bullets. And there was a lot of us. Then you got these killings, displacement, kidnapping and slaughters, this genocide of a people. Don't forget that.
Sent a commission called the Peel Commission to figure it out, but their proposed solution was typical. Just draw another British line on the map, divide the country, give this part to the Jews and this part to the Palestinians, and make that part of Transjordan next door. Oh, and because the Palestinians were a majority in the country, 250,000 of them would have to be removed by force to make the Jewish state viable. Remember, these were the proposals that were meant to calm things down. Spoiler, they didn't. Instead, the revolt continued until 1939, by which time about 10% of Palestine's adult male population had either been killed, injured, arrested, or exiled. The British government really needed a solution. So, here comes another report.
The Commission is studying the 20-year-old Jewish settlements in British-mandated Palestine.
The 1939 White Paper created a conflict between the British and the Zionists for the first time, because it rejected partition and said the solution was for Palestine to gain independence within 10 years, with everyone living there sharing it together. Crucially, it also imposed severe limits on Jewish land purchases and immigration. To the Zionists, this felt like a betrayal. In response, some set off bombs across the country, killing dozens of Palestinians.
These are the Zionists. These European forces came together and said, Israel, we got you. Here you go, some land. We're going to give you some of the Palestinians' land. And then we're going to sprinkle a little bit of establishment for them. And the Zionists went off. Now all of a sudden you can afford to go to war. Now all of a sudden you can afford to murder people, kill people, displace people, arrest people, exile people.
But soon everyone was distracted by something much bigger. More than 60 million people were killed in World War II, including 6 million Jews murdered in Nazi death camps. Jewish survivors fled Europe, with a large number of them trying to find safety in Palestine despite the British limit on Jewish immigration. This set off a more direct confrontation between the Zionists and the British, with Palestinians often targeted as well. The Zionists knew two things. Militarily, they were stronger than the Palestinians, and Britain was exhausted by World War II, so it wouldn't have the stomach to keep fighting in Palestine. They were right. In 1947, after 30 years of occupation, Britain announced it was quitting Palestine and asked the newly formed United Nations to clean up its mess. Alright, 1947 and 1948 are the most pivotal years in this story, so let's take a look at how things are lining up. During British rule, Jews had gone from 10% to 30% of the population, and owned about 6% of the land. Under Ben-Gurion's leadership, the Jewish Agency was pretty much functioning as a government for the Jewish community. And the Zionist militias had tens of thousands of soldiers, modern weapons, and officers who'd already fought in World War II. On the other side, the Palestinians hadn't been allowed to develop their own administration or military. But as they waited for the UN's solution, they were still the majority all over the country. In November 1947, the UN, then only made up of a fraction of the world's countries, voted to partition Palestine. This plan marked off 55% of the country for a Jewish state, but the UN never explained how it could be a Jewish state when half the people in its territory were Palestinian. To nobody's surprise, Palestinians, and in fact all Arabs, rejected the UN's plan. Ben-Gurion and the Zionist leadership accepted, but they saw an opportunity.
Now, we're supposed to be a democracy. How are they the majority and continuously getting overruled? No, we cool. They got a little bit of the land. They own 6% of Palestine. They have their portion. Bad. Or no, we gonna give them the majority of this land. We gonna give Israel 50%, 53% of this land. And they go crazy and say no.
Opportunity. With the British on the way out, the Zionists knew they would have the strongest military in Palestine. Their forces were instructed to seize more territory than they'd been awarded by the UN, and to do what was necessary to reduce the number of Palestinians in it. In cities like Haifa, the militia set off car bombs in Palestinian neighborhoods. They attacked villages and forced residents out.
Haganah troops have driven the Arabs out of the beleaguered city, taking many prisoners.
After inspecting parts of western Jerusalem that had been emptied of...
Remember, they didn't come in praying to these people. They came in with guns. They didn't come in and say, we'll humbly work for you so we can get on our feet. Can we clean your homes? Can we clean your streets? Fix your cars, tend to your babies, sew your clothes, wash your clothes. No. They came in with a military force that they didn't have to fuck Hitler up to the point where reportedly 6 million Jews were murdered. Where was your military at then? Why are you against the Palestinians so hard? But Hitler didn't get a chipped tooth from you. Okay.
Palestinians, Ben-Gurion said,
In many Arab neighborhoods in the West, you do not see even one Arab. If we persist, it is quite possible that in the next 6 or 8 months, there will be considerable changes in the country, and to our advantage.
One of the events that helped speed up these changes took place on April 9th, 1948, when the village of Dir Yassin was attacked. A British government report to the United Nations describes the scene. 250 people were killed in
Now listen, let's go back to the top of that. Jewish attack on Arab village of the year Yasin. The Jews attacked this village. Remember this.
describes the scene. 250 people were killed in circumstances of great savagery. Women and children were stripped, lined up, photographed, and then slaughtered by automatic firing. The story of what happened at Deir Yassin set off panic all over the country. As news spread, people fled, fearing they would be next. Historians have recorded dozens of similar massacres during this period. Each time, they would result in entire communities fleeing.
תמיד הייתה הוראה, והייתה הוראה של בן גוריון, לגרש את האנשים משם. כבשנו את המקום, טרקטורים חרשו את המקום. חרשו. לא נשאר זכר של כבר. למה? לא רצו שתהיה, לא חזרה ולא זכר של המקום.
By the time Britain ended its mandate on May 15, 1948, 250,000 Palestinians had fled. The night before, David Ben-Gurion announced the founding of the State of Israel, with himself as its first prime minister. He was standing under a giant portrait of Herzl, 51 years after Herzl had predicted this very moment. The Zionist militias came together as the newly formed Israel Defense Forces, but the fighting wasn't over. With the British out of the way, soldiers from several Arab countries entered Palestine. But the Israeli army was better equipped, better organized, and unlike the Arab armies, had a unified command and backing from several European countries. Israeli forces pushed into places that the UN had assigned to the Palestinian state, like the towns of Lidda and Ramle.
Guess what? No consequences. Oh yeah, we gave you this land, wrongfully gave you this land, and you still ain't happy with that. That's the same thing Saddam Hussein did. They gave Saddam Hussein weapons to attack the people that they wanted to attack. Then he continued and started invading other places, and then they said, oh no, you're a marked man. But here's the Prime Minister of Israel self-declaring himself the self-declared Prime Minister of Israel, based off of a prediction that happened 51 years ago that it only take 50 years to get this established. From nothing.
50,000 people were forced to flee from there, many on foot, in what became known as the Lidda Death March. After being emptied, the towns were given Hebrew names, Lod and Ramla. Like in many
Fake-ass Hebrew names from a fake-ass story out of a fucking book. That's the big capstone to this. That you can't miss. All of this is based off the fact that they believe that the Bible is telling the true history of Earth. That God, the creator of the universe, not doubting that there is a creator, but that the creator came to these people and said, this your land. And then you got your ass smacked all across the world. After being the most disobedient people on earth. You're still in land in the Bible, and you still ain't got it right. Now here we are 2,000 years later, reestablishing you.
many other empty towns, the buildings and homes were taken over by the new Israeli state and given to Jews. By the time the UN secured an armistice, 3/4 of the Palestinian people had become refugees. In Arabic, they call this the Nakba, literally the catastrophe. The new state of Israel made up 78% of what had been Palestine. The remaining parts were annexed by Jordan or taken over by Egypt. A year later, the UN passed a resolution calling for all Palestinian refugees to be allowed to return home. They never have been. Palestine had been
So Israel horn these niggas.
home. They never have been. By Jordan or taken over by Egypt. A year later, the UN passed a resolution calling for all Palestinian refugees to be allowed to return home. They never have been.
The UN called for this. The United Nations that came up out of the League of Nations said, no, we letting these people come back home. And Israel said, fuck you. And ain't nothing happened. They still receiving billions of dollars every year. Even though now They're the mongers of war. These actions should declare them as enemies of the US, enemies of the UN, enemies of England.
Palestine had been erased. In the decades since, attempts to resolve this conflict have again tried to partition the land. With each successive attempt, the territory offered to Palestinians in their historic homeland shrinks even more.
Every time we go over there and try to solve it, Israel ends up with more land. And you think the system is broken. Oh yeah, we finna go over there and talk to them about how they wrongfully invaded these people land and ran these people out. And even though we gave them territory and enforced it, they had extra resources to go beyond that. So we gonna go over there and fix this. And what happened? They ended up with more land. The Palestinians just got more displaced, more murdered, more exiled, and more arrested.
Ironically, Israel is still struggling to maintain the population advantage it gained in 1948 when it forced all those people out, because in 1967 it occupied the West Bank and Gaza, bringing all the Palestinians living there under its rule. And so today, the population of Jews and non-Jews in this land is roughly equal. But those living under occupation have no rights, no citizenship, and no prospect of independence. The Nakba-era tactics of settlement, home demolitions, and expulsion are still used against them.
Nakba, Nakba, no! We want Nakba, Nakba, no!
Israel has taken the land but wants nothing to do with the millions under its rule. International, Israeli, and Palestinian human rights groups say this system is a form of apartheid. To see if that's an accurate description of Israel more than 100 years.
Okay. So there you have it. Now we have Benjamin Netanyahu, the Prime Minister of Israel, coming to the United States, should be an enemy of the United States because of their murderous ways under its leadership of Prime Ministry that displaced millions of people, murdered millions of people, arrested millions of people, exiled millions of people. All in the 1900s. So now let's see what he got to say. Now you saw those people holding that flag that's right there next to the U.S. flag saying, we want Nakba now. What did they say Nakba was? Catastrophe. They want the Palestinians to go through a catastrophe. Why is that flag next to ours? Are you in agreement with them? And if not, then speak on it. Say we do not agree with the Palestinians losing their land and being murdered, exiled, and arrested at this percentage. then give these people their land. They're not kidnapping these people because they don't like these people. They're kidnapping these people for a leverage to negotiate what was taken from them. Not to beg for something that doesn't belong to them, but to say, stop it. They stand there in peace, get slaughtered, and then when they make a violent act, an aggressive act back and say, we're going to kidnap these people. Now they're the worst people in the world, and now you're the victim. And now we need to lick your wounds with you. No. It was almost 2,000 years ago when the most powerful ancient, what do you say? 2,000 years ago that the most powerful nation in the ancient world, they seized the Israel and destroyed fake ass Solomon's temple that never fucking existed. There was no Solomon. There was no Solomon's temple 2,000 years ago. But here we are with our political influencers, our leaders, the people who are backed by the military saying, hey, you know the story of Pinocchio? We want to ride for Geppetto. We want to go kill Captain Hook for Peter Pan. We want to teach Mowgli how to build a man fire. They're really wasting your money, billions of dollars at a time, that could go to the cause of bettering black people in American lands, American citizens who were hurt by America and its laws and its military enforcement. We're going to take all that money and throw it to the never-ending story. 2,000 years ago, the most powerful ancient nation invaded Israel and destroyed Solomon's temple. Are you fucking serious? He should have got laughed out of the fucking building. There's no Solomon's temple. There's no Solomon. And even if it was, that was 2,000 years ago. What are we really talking about? Trying to help the Jewish people live in their ancestral homeland. You know where y'all stayed at 2,000 years ago? Yeah, we want to dedicate our resources to helping y'all live there. What about the black people in America? What about where they were 500 years ago, 600 years ago, 700 years ago, 900 years ago, 1,700 years ago, 2,000 years ago, they damn selves? What about the people that you helped displace yourself? What about the people from whose destruction you still benefit from? Why are you standing next to this idiot Netanyahu, this monstrous villain who is the leader of a genocidal agenda against Palestinians and anyone who goes against their false doctrine of the belief of what the creator of the universe established? We need to now check out the verbiage. Now you claim to be a people that got appointed to this land by the creator of the universe, the most all-powerful, omniscient, all-knowing, all-being. But here you are speaking to the U.S. Congress, when you should be somewhere speaking with the creator. Then you say we're at a crossroads. Iran isn't up evil. When you're winning, you've been winning. You've been displacing people for 100 years now. Nobody's touched you. Nobody's done nothing to you. You haven't lost one person. All of your prime ministers are safe. All of the people up under them are safe. Now this isn't a battle a battle of civilization. This is a battle of barbarism versus civilization. Remember they say, talk about the barbarians? If you're not a Christian, if you're not a Jew, if you're not a Muslim, you're a barbarian. If you're not a Greek, you're not a Roman, you're a barbarian. It's the same verbiage they used on us. They don't deserve rights. They're not civilized. They're barbaric. They don't talk like us. They don't want to talk like us. They don't dress like us. They don't want to dress like us. They don't act like us. They don't want to act like us. So they're barbarians, and they deserve every evil that comes to them. While we are the most civilized. Dropping bombs and shooting bullets and advancing militaristic weapons faster than we can find enemies to use them on. And all of these are pale nations. The Jews, America, Europe, Russia. The minority colored people are destroying the majority colored people land over this fake doctrine. And they clapped. Oh yeah, these are barbarians. We're the civilized. We have watches and suits and ties and comb overs. Ribbons pinned to our chests. Those who glorify death and sanctify life. But you were glorifying death when you was displacing the Palestinians. You were glorifying death when you were murdered the Palestinians. When you were taking over land that wasn't yours, even after you were given land, you kept killing, kept arresting, kept displacing, kept exiling people. And that's the glory that your nation comes out of. It doesn't come out of working its way from the bottom, establishing itself as a civilized people. The Palestinians were civilized. Look at them. Look at them before you brought your guns in. They had beautiful buildings, beautiful homes, beautiful families, nice tended to clothes, nice tended to farms, eating from the land like the Garden of Eden, feeding their own chickens, milking their own cows. And then here you come with your 2,000-year-old lie and your alliance with your greedy, imperialistic minded allies. You were not sanctifying life. Israel was not sanctifying life when they were displacing the Palestinians. They are the evil that they speak to fight against. And they came to America, stood in front of our Congress, and called themselves civilized or calling other people barbarians. Remember that. Glorified death and sanctified life. So why didn't you stand together when they said, this is the land you supposed to get? You cool. Why you wasn't standing together with America then? The United Nations then? After they forced these people to move and gave you land, gave you funding. Why you didn't stand shoulder to shoulder with them then? Why did you feel the need to further impose your forces on the Palestinians? Now, why can't you understand? There's one earth. If we're fighting each other, we lose. The they that you speak of are us. You're us. There's only one world. All humans are all humans. So if they lose, if they die by the millions, if they get displaced by the millions, arrested and exiled by the millions, we lose. There's a simplistic way to resolve these things. There's a simple way to live in peace. You have enough land, you have enough funding. Let them develop as a people. You develop as a people. Why is their why is their solidification of their nation a threat to yours? When your establishment of a nation was a direct threat to theirs. Israel being built destroyed Palestine. Don't forget that. Now listen to the disrespectful shit he just said. Like Pearl Harbor and like 9/11, the incident that happened, the act of evil, of revenge, of desperation will live on in infamy. This motherfucker came to America and told America 9/11 and Pearl Harbor is in comparison to what we just went through. And you ain't even hear about it. Most of us can't even state what it is. When some people at a party were attacked, at a celebration, were attacked by Hamas. Nigga, that's not a Pearl Harbor. That's not a 9/11. On 9/11, our country attacked our country to push an agenda to help you, well, to push an agenda to destroy 10 Arab nations in 7 years, which you benefited from. It's not the same thing. And we got to stand here and watch these evil motherfuckers applaud this shit. Stand up and applaud this shit. This motherfucker said, proportionally wise. This nigga using statistics. Proportionally wise, we went through 20 9/11s in one day. Because reportedly on 9/11, 3,000 people died. You have whatever million people you have in your land. So what we went through is greater than what you went through. He stood up in front of America and said that. And left out this bitch safely. We went through 29 9/11s, nigga, in one day. Sounds like what black people went through in America. And we're supposed to what? Pull a tear out of our ass for you? When that happened to us, by you and your allies, where our women were raped, our men were beheaded, our children were burnt, people were killed in front of their families. You could pack up this sorry sack of a sympathetic fuck shit and get the hell out of my country. Go back over there and harass fucking Palestine. I don't have no compassion for you. And I cannot see compassion in my heart for each and every individual person who went through those horrifying things while you sat comfortable eating your luxurious food and your luxurious suits with your luxurious timepieces and your luxurious cars. I can't. We went through a Holocaust. We went through a genocide. And you're standing here asking us as Americans to listen to you bicker about a fucking fight that you started. Oh, they fought back, y'all. We killed millions of them. And they killed 4,100 of us, 41,000 of us. That's the least you deserve. It should have been your head taken off your shoulders. It should have been your babies burnt. This is what is deserving of a people who established their country off the destruction of another's. The Palestinians today have nothing to do with what happened 2,000 years ago, and yet they paying the price. You have nothing to do with the Jews of 2,000 years ago, but yet you're reaping the benefits. The Jews of 2,000 years ago would have never wanted this for the Palestinians. They would have been cool with their land. They wouldn't even align themselves with the United States and their evil ways. You are not the Jews. And the Jews that you describe never existed. And the Jews that did exist would be your enemies. They would be Palestinians. The Jews would be burning American flags and Israeli flags. What about Mahmoud Abu Jamal? What about Matula Shakur? What about Asada Shakur? What about all of the black political prisoners that are incarcerated to this day who just wish to hold their child one time before they die? That wish they could have saw their parents before their parents died. Let me look this up. Let me share this with you. While we're pulling at fucking heartstrings. The 19 black radicals who are still in prison after 4 decades, 40 years for trying to fight for equal advantage of their people in the land of their people. Americans fighting for Americans. Mahmoud Abu Jamal, Delbert Africa, Eddie Africa, Janet Africa, Janine Africa, Jalil Mutakim, Matulu Shakur, Russell Shoaz, Sundiata Akoli, Chuck Africa, Michael Africa, Joseph Bourne, Veronza Bowers Jr., Fred Burton, Romaine Fitzgerald, Ruchell McGee, Ed Poindexter, Kojo Sababu, Kamua Siddiqui. What about all of these people? When are you going to stand up and clap for their freedom, their return to their families? You ignore that conversation and stand in front of us and ask for us to give a fuck about what you think you would like for us to think you're going through. Yeah, and the nigga went to sleep. He probably sleep now in a big ass, comfortable, thick ass bed in a beautiful home on some beautiful land. Let that motherfucker get a gun and go storm and get him. Go. All of y'all in this room right now, bitch, get on a motherfucking plane, take y'all suited ass over there and go get them people back. But to tell the truth, all of these people are resting in very privileged places, in very beautiful homes, yachts, private planes, estates, tailored suits, caviar, lobster, crab, finest medications. Well, we thank God for $25 project keys. and state tax returns, federal tax returns. Listen to that. Listen to that. We already all the beautiful red-haired children. We never said the beautiful afro-haired children, because that ain't beautiful to them. That was he said he was a proud Zionist. More specifically, a proud Irish American Zionist. You got to take pride in Ireland, right? You got to take pride in the lowly life that the Irish had to fight for to become the president of the United States. While we still ain't had not one afro in the White House. Listen, listen to this shit here. Because I was about to say that motherfucker look black. Look at him. Look at his mixed ass. He got the hair. He got some of the complexion. His family exiled into Israel from Ethiopia. Why? Why the fuck did he have to go to Israel from Ethiopia? If you want to talk about a 2,000-year-old story, why the Ethiopians seeking exile in Israel? Oh, that motherfucker mixed. He's definitely mixed. He's definitely mixed. If I've ever seen a mixed Ethiopian, that's a mixed motherfucking Ethiopian. No, racially mixed. He's Jewish Ethiopian. You know. That's Arab and African mixed. Look at it. Immigrant. To kill. Are we talking about who glorified death? This man ran 8 miles, no car, to the front line to go defend Israel. Killed many terrorists. We're glorifying death here. He didn't go there and pray. He didn't go there and humbly introduce himself. No. This man wanted to kill so bad, he ran 8 miles. So who's glorifying death and sanctifying life? Killed many terrorists. Oh, he killed many motherfuckers. Stand up and clap for him. Stand up and clap for the killers of Israel while we sanctify life by occupying in Palestine, displacing and arresting, exiling, and murdering those people. So not only did he kill motherfuckers Ziad, but then he ran over there to kill motherfuckers too. Why for him? He lost a limb, a right arm, sighted his left eye, and he can't wait to get back out there and start killing motherfuckers with tanks. Stand up for the glorifiers of death while posing to being the sanctifiers of life. Shout out to the wicked. Make sure you hold your little cane up. Make sure you shake that motherfucker. But remember the one motherfucker? The one soldier in Israel that was like, well, how did these people get murdered? He laughed. He laughed. It was funny. He giggled. He said, well, my gun had 250 bullets. Oh, we murdered the shit out of them Palestinians. Those are the soldiers of Israel. These are the fools, the babies, who are not propped up here to think that a plot from these wicked motherfuckers is something to be proud about. Something worth losing a leg, an arm, and vision over. Something worth becoming a murderer over. Oh, I killed people who were trying to stop us from wiping them off the face of the earth. And I got applauded by a bunch of suited motherfuckers that smell how I would never smell, eat how I would never eat, sleep how I would never sleep, and live by laws that I would never ever be able to live by. Now you take your ass back home, take your pain medicine, wake up to your nightmares in the middle of the night, scaring your wife and your kids. Then where do we fail to define you as the terrorist when you were invading lands that wasn't yours, killing people, killing children, women, elderly? You're the terrorist. You're the terrorist. It's like finding sympathy for the people who did the wickedness, and then once truth start winning and a couple people get killed, now all of a sudden, oh, look at that. This is the ultimate fucking gaslighting. What those people, Hamas, are doing is defending themselves in a war that was declared on them. It wasn't mutual combat. The League of Nations gave you this land, and the people of Palestine disagreed with it, but you still were established. And then you over-established yourself. To the point now, the Palestinians had 100% of the land. Now they have to exist on just a strip, a slither of land in the country where their ancestors farmed and built and never attacked anybody for thousands of years. Iran is funding anti-Israel protesting in America. So is Americans. So are Americans. Americans are waking up and using their American earned dollars from their American jobs, American pensions, and we said we're going down here as a collective to protest against Israel. And those Americans should not have to stand here and watch you, a foreigner, look down your nose at them. They should be on that podium, standing in front of that mic, voicing themselves, because they are the Americans. But yet you're going to come here from Israel to America and try to shame Americans because they're indifferent with your murderous tactics. If Americans want to burn an American flag, who the fuck are you to say something about it? If Americans on American soil want to burn American flags in front of Americans and voice their opinion, who the fuck are you to speak on that? I don't understand. How is this man allowed to do this? How is there not an uproar, a larger uproar? And I want to commend the peaceful protesters who burn flags to symbolize truth because they don't want to kill, because they don't want to murder, because they don't want to displace people off their lands. They only want righteousness to prevail. An American flag is put next to an Israel flag while Israelis are calling for the genocide of Palestinian people. Well, I'll burn that motherfucking flag too. This is not my flag. It does not represent my mind state, my heart, my soul, my fucking goals. It doesn't represent my ambitions. It doesn't represent what I'm working for, what I'm willing to die for. It just doesn't. This dusty ass American flag represents the racist, culturalist mentality where I'm defined as a barbarian while they're described as civilized because they kill people from a distance with their bombs or they have uniforms while they shoot their AK-47s because their tanks get washed and oiled, intended to. This is treason to let this man come to America and speak down and shame Americans. They chanting USA for a non-American. They're chanting USA for a foreigner who's speaking against Americans who have a problem with America standing and being an ally to murderers over a 2,000-year-old lie. The misrepresentation of the Bible. You want us to think the creator of the universe put you over a land, and so therefore you have the right 2,000 years later to come and kill these people, exile these people, and arrest these people to get their land and call them barbarians, and then come to America and shake your fucking hand at us. No, they're not. Americans are. White Americans are funding the anti-Israel protests going on outside that damn building. Iran ain't gave them niggas no money, no gas, no oil, no gold, no guns, no pamphlets, no nothing. No cell phones, nothing. But those American tax dollars are going to establish you. Those Americans that's protesting, that $150 billion that went to your nation came from them and their family members. And you need to shut the fuck up and listen to them. Instead of trying to push this motherfucking agenda to turn America on itself. Oh, some of you here in America don't agree with us in Israel, so y'all need to do something about those people. What the fuck am I hearing? And this shit is being applauded. No. Nigga, this is the land where democracy rules. And if you have a difference of opinion, you get to voice that shit. Freedom of speech. I could burn a flag and I could say, fuck Israel. Defund Israel. Demilitarize Israel. De-weaponize Israel. Are we supposed to give a fuck while we stand on the history of our people being hung? Of us being murdered for our hair, our language, our biological makeup that we didn't choose. You invoke this. So when these people, the tyrants of Tehran, as you say, when they get a little victory every now and then, when they do a little wickedness, and it tickles you because it's not hurting you, you laugh at that. You laugh at when these people die. And then you use it as an excuse to become more of a terrorist. Please don't ask us to sympathize with you. We don't. Take your ass back where the fuck you from and give your speech over there. You shouldn't be on our land. You shouldn't be in our territory. You shouldn't be allowed in, and you shouldn't have been fucking allowed out. You should have been arrested and brought up on charges. Who the fuck is that? Who the fuck is Isaac, Abraham, and Jacob? These are fictional characters. These people are not real. You are a colonizing state. You're a colonizing state. Nothing happened to you. Nothing happened to you. Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob never existed. Therefore, where they prayed in this land according to this book isn't a real factor. But yet you will stand up here and talk about this stuff with sheer confidence, speaking against Americans in America who look at your actions, your documented, recorded actions, and say, hey, this is a motherfucking colonizer. You weren't happy with having a land. You had nowhere. Then you get some land militarily enforced in Palestine. And then you take more land, more land, more land, more land, till you got all the land. And there's still a question if you're a fucking colonizer. Why are you literally colonizing? And then you say, well, the reason why it's not colonization is because this was our land 2,000 years ago. What the fuck? Bitch, prove it. Prove it. Show me the recordations of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob in the land of Israel 2,000 years ago. You can't. You have no case. Sit down. Be happy with what you got. Be happy with the land you got. Be happy with the $150 billion in fucking tangible. Be happy. But this motherfucker done got his shit taken care of all the way to the point where you're complaining about people outside burning American flags. What are y'all clapping for? Who was David and Solomon? And who are they to you? Come on, man. Not 4,000. So now this motherfucker sitting up here talking to y'all about 2000 BC. 2000 BC. There's no mention of Israel before 300 BC, 325. None. Herodotus never mentioned the Jews. Someone who's deemed as the father of history was in Egypt, was in the Levant in BC times, compiling history from different groups of people who recorded history, and we never heard of a David, a Solomon, a Isaac, a Jacob, a Abraham, a Israel. But they stand here and tell you the reason why us killing these people, the reason why I could praise this one-armed bastard over here killing people, this one-leg bastard over here killing people, and this Ethiopian migrant into Israel, reason why I could praise them for killing people is because 4,000 years ago, Isaac prayed in the land. Come on, fam. And that's a lie. Because even the Bible say that the land of Israel was taken from the Canaanites. So it wasn't always your home. You were a bastard people. Even by the story of the Bible, you had no land. So that hasn't always been your home. That was the home of the Canaanites. But he'll tell you it's always been our home. No, that's the whole story of the Bible. You were a people without land. Remember that? And the land that you are calling your home were home to the Amorites, the Girgashites, the Hamites, and all of these other ites that the God of the Bible told you to go kill and take their women children for yourselves. So no, it wasn't always your land. And who gives a fuck whose land it was 4,000 years ago if it's murdering millions of people today? I don't care. I don't care. You living somewhere 4,000 years ago does not justify the murdering of millions of people today. No. No. Fucking no. And then I got to sit up here and act like I got to ignore the genocide that happened to my own people here in America. How black people were murdered in America, disconnected from their heritage. And we have a long recordation of our fucking history. You talking about 4,000? We go back 10,000 years ago, 12,000 years ago. 14, 15,000 BCE, Africans having recorded history. Where's the plot for us to get put back on our land? To have a land, period. So no, I don't care about your tales of 4,000 years ago if it comes to killing millions of people today. You have your land, you have your luxurious prizes, and just chill. But no, you couldn't. You have to be more wicked, more evil, demand more money from America to have more movement against a people who are stuck on a strip of land. Let me make sure the audio is sharing. Share audio, share tab. Okay, it should be jiggy.
My alma mater, MIT, couldn't bring themselves to condemn the calls for the genocide of Jews. Remember what they said? They said, it depends on the context. Well, let me give these befuddled academics a little context. Anti-Semitism is the world's oldest hatred. For centuries, the massacre of Jews was always preceded by wild accusations. We were accused of everything from poisoning wells, to spreading plagues, to using the blood of slaughtered children to bake Passover matzahs. These preposterous anti-Semitic lies led to persecution, mass murder, and ultimately to history's worst genocide, the Holocaust. Now, just as malicious lies were leveled for centuries at the Jewish people, malicious lies are now being leveled at the Jewish state. No, don't applaud. Listen. The outrageous slanders that paint Israel as racist and genocidal are meant to delegitimize Israel, to demonize.
The same way they did the Palestinians. To put these slanderous allegations on the Palestinians was to justify the murder of the Palestinians. And the Palestinians not getting up $1.7 billion, $3.8 billion annually. And then you want to get patted on the back for sending food rations into a land that you destroyed the farms. You saw what they said in the last documentary. They said they raised the ground. I mean, they went into these lands. They took bulldozers to their buildings, to their farms, to their lands, and they left nothing. They left nothing for people to return back to. Now you want to get patted on your back for the food that you send these people? Why don't you just leave them alone? I'm sure they'll grow their own food. They've been there for thousands of years and never needed any aid. You're the weak ones. You're the ones who couldn't grow food. You're the ones who had to get aid from America and other people. And then when you got that aid, you misused it and attacked innocent people and was overburdened. You over-colonized. You over-exhausted your military force to displace these people, and now you run a propaganda machine against them to criminalize them, to justify this murder. No. And then you ask for sympathy and try to paint a picture of them doing it to you? You're big bad Israel. You have the Iron Dome. You have the $150 billion from America. You have the military. You have the tanks. Your soldier have 250 rounds in their guns. Not the Palestinians. Not Hamas.
Demonize the Jewish state and to demonize Jews everywhere.
And it's not to demonize Jews everywhere. There's hella Jews throughout the world that got nothing to do with this propaganda. You can't say all Jews are of the Jewish state. All Jews are aligned with Israel. All Jews agree with Israel and what's being done in Palestine. No. No.
No wonder we've witnessed an appalling rise of anti-Semitism in America and around the world.
We've witnessed an appalling uprise in anti-Semitism because of what the Semitic people are doing to the Palestinians. If you stop that, you won't even be on our news. We don't give a fuck you exist. You get our attention when the Palestinians cry out. We're dying. We're being murdered. Anybody that aligns themselves with us is painted as demons. That's what's going on. Leave them alone right now and watch what happens. Go on about your way. Receive from the lands which you illegally got, and watch what happens to the world's perspective of you. But no, you'd rather continue to do wickedness and then just give these speeches every 4 years to make sure to check the temperature, to come bash Americans on American soil.
My friends, whenever and wherever we see the scourge of anti-Semitism, we must unequivocally condemn it and resolutely fight it, without exception. And don't be fooled when the blood libels against the Jewish state come from people who wear fancy silk robes and speak in lofty tones about law and justice. Here's a case in point. The prosecutor of the International Criminal Court has shamefully accused Israel of deliberately starving the people of Gaza. This is utter, complete nonsense. It's a complete fabrication. Israel has enabled more than 40,000 aid trucks to enter Gaza. That's 500,000 tons of food. And that's more than 3,000 calories for every man, woman, and child in Gaza. If there are Palestinians in Gaza who aren't getting enough food, it's not because Israel is blocking it, it's because Hamas is stealing it.
We don't give a fuck about your food. They're probably blocking your food because it's probably poison. Leave them alone and let them grow their own food. And they won't need your 40,000 trucks, your 3,000 calories. You can keep your 3,000 calories to yourself. Get off our land. Let us fix what you have broken. Let us get back to farming and irrigation and building our families. You won't have to pat yourself on the back for your 3,000 calories.
So much for that lie, but here's another. The ICC prosecutor accuses Israel of deliberately targeting civilians. What in God's green earth is he talking about? The IDF has dropped millions of flyers, sent millions of text messages, made hundreds of thousands of phone calls to get Palestinian civilians out of harm's way. But at the same time, Hamas does everything in its power to put Palestinian civilians in harm's way. They fire rockets.
So you tell Palestinians, you send flyers and text messages saying, we're going to bomb your home, get out your house. And the Hamas people are saying, don't leave your house. This is your home. And listen to how you describe it. If y'all leave the land we want, you won't get murdered. And people are telling you, man, stand to your death on your land. Don't let them get your land so easily. Because eventually enough of us would die where other people will step in and say, hey, this is enough. This is their only hope. But if they don't, then they're displaced and they're erased forever.
From schools, from hospitals, from mosques. They even shoot their own people when they try to leave the war zone. A senior Hamas official, Fatri Hamad, boasted, listen to this, he boasted that Palestinian women and children excel at being human shields. His words, excel at being human shields. What monstrous evil For Israel, every civilian death is a tragedy. For Hamas, it's a strategy. They actually want Palestinian civilians to die so that Israel will be smeared in the international media and be pressured to end the war before it's won.
They want them to not run. They want them to not give up. They want you to stop attacking them, first of all. Stop it. How much land do you need? How much land do you need? Let me see if I can find out. Everybody in the world can fit inside of the state of Texas and have 1,000 square feet to themselves. Let me see. Let me see. I think this is somewhere in here.
Decided to settle in Palestine for a while and work things out. They entered in Palestine with a banner saying, "Germans destroyed our families and homes. Don't you destroy." Once, there was a place called Palestine where people of different religions, like Jews, Muslims, and Christians, lived together peacefully during Ottoman rule. Then, a bearded guy with a vision named Zionism wanted to find a home for Jewish people. During World War II, there was a lot of fighting among different groups, and especially this one white guy wanted to harm Jews for strange reasons. So, Jews decided to settle in Palestine for a while and work things out. They entered in Palestine with a banner saying, "Germans destroyed our families and homes. Don't you destroy our hopes?" As time passed, they, along with their European and American friends, decided to take over a big part of the land. In 1948, with the support of the United Nations, Jews made this land their own. The Palestinian people, of course, didn't agree with this and decided to fight back this new form.
The region that encompasses
Look at this shit. How much land you need?
The land we know
is one that's like really simple.
At the time in England.
It's one that's super duper simple. That just shows that the territory, the Israel territory, and the borders of Israel. See,
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi.
I want to see that. No, that's not it. Is this it?
Behind me is a new Corvette ZR1, and this car is absolutely unhinged.
That's what happened. These people land got taken, you got over there, and you got you some land. The U.S. proposed the land, the English backed it up, and then you overstepped the boundaries, and now these people are on a small strip of land. When is enough and is enough? What do you, like, come on, man. How can you not tell who's on the bullshit? The Palestinians are a threat to Israel? When and where and how?
One. This would enable Hamas to survive another day, and as they vowed, to carry out October 7th again and again and again. Well, I want to assure you, no matter what pressure is brought to bear, I will never allow that to happen. The vast majority of Americans have not fallen for this Hamas propaganda. They continue to support Israel. And I want to say thank you, America, and thank you, senators and House members who continue to support us, continue to support Israel, continue to support the truth, and see through the lies. But as for the minority that may have fallen for Hamas's con's job, I suggest you listen.
We ain't talked to Hamas. Hamas ain't did one TikTok video, one YouTube, one StreamYard panel. Hamas ain't said shit to us. All we gotta do is look. Where was Israel in 1900? Where was Israel in 1920? Where was Israel in 1940? Where were the Palestinians in 1940? And where are Israel and Palestinian at now? And how did they get there? We look at you. You invaded these people, and with the help of these other white nations, you colonized these people land under Acts. Under Acts. And then you self-imposed yourself even further into these people land, displacing them, demonizing them, justifying and legitimizing their genocide. You are the terrorist. You are the enemy, and you should have been arrested on U.S. soil and brought up on charges for crimes against humanity. Israel, the nation Israel, their very existence threatens the existence of all people on earth who have land and don't have a military. That's it. You shouldn't have to get $150 billion in military enforcement to live. And you claim you're the people of God. Well, the story of God is the story of God. This isn't in the book. Remember? You're supposed to be lowly and displaced until Jesus come back and rectify this. Go over there and sit in suffrage and wait on Jesus. While these people built their homes peacefully, they were Muslims, Christians, and Jews, and some of the non-major religions, and they were there peacefully. They weren't warring. They weren't burning flags. They weren't against each other. They was helping each other. The Muslim seed and the Jewish seed and the Christian seed grew in the soil together until Israel came along and said, you're either with us or you're anti-Semitic.
To Colonel John Spencer. John Spencer is head of urban warfare studies at West Point. He studied every major urban conflict. I was going to say in modern history. He corrected me, no, in history. Israel, he said, has implemented more precautions to prevent civilian harm than any military in history and beyond what international law requires. That's why, despite all the lies you've heard, the war in Gaza has one of the lowest ratios of combatants to non-combatants casualties in the history of urban warfare. And you want to know where it's lowest in Gaza? It's lowest in Rafah. In Rafah. Remember what so many people said? If Israel goes into Rafah, there'll be thousands, maybe even tens of thousands of civilians killed. Well, last week, I went into Rafah. I visited our troops as they finished fighting Hamas's remaining terrorist battalions. I asked the commander there, how many terrorists did you take out in Rafah? He gave me an exact number, 1,203. I asked him, how many civilians were killed? He said, Prime Minister, practically none.
This nigga said practically none. Man, it's the boy Swab also, man. Y'all can check out the rest of this. It's another half an hour or so about this, a little under half an hour. Fuck Israel. Free Palestine. Fuck America's support for Israel. Stop sending our money there. Use those billions of dollars to make our infrastructure safe here, to legitimize the living of black people here, to educate black people here, to give black people here homes. If you want to help somebody, if you want to support somebody, if you want to give aid to somebody up cost into the hundreds of billions of dollars, do it for black Americans on American soil before you do it for foreigners that's colonizing another foreigner's land. This boy Swab Boss, man, the AOR Argument League, snapping off entertainment, man. Black power, peace. Love y'all. Keep y'all head up so y'all see the bullshit coming. And man, you progress in lanes in which you got a passion, because work is work, but then it got to be torture, man. Black power, I'm out.